Yo, we on a not right now, but right now tip. I mean, y'all peep the drip on my boy Jesse right now. Because look, hustle has a place, but what are we looking for?
Equity, baby. What is the
Equity.
market value? When we talk about all of the hustle that goes into establishing an enterprise, a self-sustained enterprise, a business that has intrinsic value outside of the direct contributions of the founder and owner. What are we talking about? We can continue the cycle of hustle. We've seen what that does. It's insanity on steroids. What is insanity? To do the same thing and expect different results. We continue on this cycle, this hustle cycle, and commit ourselves to it under the guise of the hustle. But what value is being produced from those contributions, from that commitment, from that investment? What value is being produced from it? Equity is what they call it.
I think that's the reason why a lot of people are struggling. And it can
Hold
be
on, bro.
people
Hit that disclaimer first, bro.
Bro, let's look. You guys see, we get right into actionable information here. That look, this is the asset class. Okay, this isn't the think about it class. This is the asset class. And guys, we're about to hop into it, so I'm gonna hit you with a disclaimer. So look, all the information that we're giving you here today is for informational and entertainment basis. We highly encourage you to work with licensed professionals, bonded in nature if need be, with a long track record of success. We also highly encourage you to do your own research, because as you learn more, each one, reach one, teach one, because that's how we learn and grow as a community.
Already.
So look, my man's was going in here. This is Jesse, the phenomenon. He is the visionary that's created Bullseye Consulting. RN for right now, not right now.
Not now. Not now.
Not now, but right now. And, I work as the managing partner of tax erasers, because the easiest way to double your wealth is to cut your tax liability in half. So he's talking about frameworks of getting out of hustle, because hustling is over glorified. Do you need a certain energy and grit and persistence to get something out of the mud? Yes. Do you need to continually operate in a state where I'm just working as hard as possible all the time, and we're going to see what comes of this? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You're not being efficient and you're not executing. And the way that I look at it, this is why a lot of people are emotionally drained. Imagine we just had the World Cup happen. Spain defeated Argentina. Shout out to Spain. Not those other guys. That's a whole nother story. But we know Argentina, at least the government, not the people of Argentina, one of the most racist countries in the world against people that look like Jesse and I. So that's a whole nother conversation that we could hop into. But the World Cup just happened. One of the most expensive events ever, not just sporting events, but events ever. The billions of dollars that went into this. And them running up and down the soccer field for 90 plus minutes at a time with no goals on either side. Would anyone pay to come see that? Probably not. But here's the big thing. How can you keep track of your progress if there are no goals? And that's what a lot of folks are doing. You're just running. You might even be dribbling. You might be throwing some passes out there, but if you cannot score, if there is not a criteria for us to know the direction that we're going, what we're good at, what we're bad at, you're going to be in a constant state of running.
So hold on just a second, because Don DeMarco, Don DeMar bars. You know what I'm saying? He dropping them bars, dropping them bars. All right. Let me speak on that a little bit though. Because
You know,
one of the things that, oh man, Red and Meth, like we got to get that for a drop down too. The for a drop as well. The get
get
them. Like
them.
we got to get that too. But um, when we talk about getting it out the mud, hustling, building a business, building an empire. When I sit down with the average business owner and I ask them, what was your baseline what has been your baseline net profit over the past 5 years? They have no idea. When I ask them what are the components that factor into their cost of goods sold, they have no idea. These are numbers, by the way. These are objective, those are scorecards in real time. Now, when I flip it and I ask them what's their favorite sports franchise, it doesn't matter if it's football, it don't matter if it's baseball, it don't matter if it's basketball, whatever that their favorite. And especially because I find myself in these small towns oftentimes. And in small towns, like you got the college football, the high school football, like that culture set is a different beast within itself. You ask them about the scorecard of any of their favorite teams. These same business owners. So the high school team that is the lifeblood of your town, what's their record? And what has their record been for the past, let's just throw a number out, the past 30 years? Because when you looking at the talent that's on the field right now, and you look at the numbers that are being produced from the talent on the field right now, you comparing that to, you've been watching this for 30 years. You've been for 50 years. So you can easily throw out the 30 years. We're talking about high school sport, like, because there's certain towns where high school, like, it's easy to describe the phenomenon in a college football town. That's like that's easy. We know that. But it's high school. It's high schools that
they'll tell you when they won the first national. They'll tell you when they won the last, when they beat the rival. Oh yeah, we got 10 championships, and then in 1807, you didn't even know who was playing football. Who was playing football? It's just they'll go. You're not even lying a little bit.
But you ask them the last time that their team hit 80% productivity and is deer in the headlights. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Like, you can tell me the history of this high school football team in the town that feeds your business and you in turn feed it. Because it's cyclical. That's how small business works within a community. It's cyclical. The small business employs the community that they serve. They pay the taxes that feed and fuel the social contract of said community. The small business owners are huge contributors to that.
Yeah, they might even sponsor the team.
With that level of responsibility and accountability, you ask them the last time that their team consistently performed at 80% productivity. They can't answer that. But you ask them when the last time that the quarterback hit whatever record that is or is not going on right now at their current high school, team that's fueling the same community that business owner has a responsibility to serve in a different kind of way. And it's different answers. What are we talking about?
Well, when you major in minor things, you win a lot of small championships. And that's why we keep the main thing the main thing.
What are we talking about?
It's wild. I had somebody ask me, it was one of the games a couple Mondays ago. It was before the United States got knocked out. They asked me during this exact time slot where we record the asset class, you coming to the game? Now I got to record the podcast. This could be American history. I'm like, bro, I'm making international history every day in my business. And then I get to chop it up with my brother who's doing the same thing. Like, it took us 3 days to have a 6-minute conversation because we're both just getting after it over and over and over and over again, and I love that, man. And I love that, you challenge me to look at things differently within my own business or even with a different worldview where, we don't have to agree on everything. And that's the beautiful thing but we're able to learn from each other in multiple different places and challenge each other to go harder. And like, I pretty much told the dude, I was like, bro, I'm focused on getting my championship ring right now. Because I hope the United States does well, I hope they win. I love my country, but I'm not going to be on the field holding the trophy up. So I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
The unfortunate reality about that is when we talk about any team and we talk about America, right, in the context of a team, at our level of entrepreneurship, we are as effective as the team that we build and the culture that we cultivate within that team. That's the measurement of our effectiveness. As the leaders of our respective teams, it's our responsibility to establish that tone from the top down that reverberates from the bottom back up, which establishes that culture of accountability and consistent output, regardless of what's going on in the market. That output is the same. That's the responsibility of the leader of the organization. Mm-hmm. When we talk about the United States of America, we have 3 branches of government that are designed to provide a check and balance to the livelihood and well-being of the United States American citizens. It's a team. What happens, Earl, when members of my team on Bullseye Consulting do not believe in my vision and are not committed to playing their role within executing and realizing my vision? What happens in that situation?
Well, you might have charted a course, but you're not going to make that journey. You're not going to get to where you want to go because it requires everyone to be moving and saying, we're talking about chaos. We're talking about burnout. We're talking about people that are selling these businesses because they don't know how to clean them up. We're talking about people where you can change their whole bloodline if they'll listen to you and if they'll move the right way. That last name can be associated with wealth for the next 5 generations if they'll listen to you.
It's real. So one of the things that I've been really going hard on lately is when it comes to building that core team, what it takes to actually own an asset that you can step away from and nothing changes when that happens. There are all of these different components. You know, we've spoken about org charts and job descriptions and performance expectations and all of these different tools and resources that kind of ease the miscommunication that oftentimes comes with building a team that understands the assignment. Well, another component of that is the skills flex, and I'm gonna spend a little bit of time talking about what that looks like. So, as we've discussed on a couple of occasions, my brother, my ideal client is going to be in the trade space. Although my very last client here was last two clients. Well, no. I'll stick to the last client. Warehousing. So I'll expand my wheelhouse, or priority and target audience from the trades to also include those types of logistical operations, because they are what just kind of fuel, so bringing that back to the skills flex. What the skills flex does is takes all of the competencies of the most skilled technician, the most mastered of the craft, the sensei, if you will. It takes all of the attributes of that sensei and breaks them down into digestible chunks that says, when you are able to do X, Y, and Z, then that demonstrates that you have mastered this particular competency. When you're able to do ABC, it demonstrates that you have mastered this scale of competency. So when you're measuring that on a subjective scale of 1 to 5, that 5 being, you know what, if it comes down to this particular task needing to be performed, this person, when I assign it to them, I have so much faith and trust in their ability to perform that task that I would trust them to train others on my team to perform that same task. When I hire somebody, that's the person that I'm going to take them to when it comes to performing that particular task. That's a 5. When we say a 4 is that person that, because it's a difference between mastering a craft and being able to teach that same craft. Not everybody has that innate ability to connect with others, to actually teach and educate in an effective, efficient manner. Everybody don't have that.
You know, bro, I would probably argue that you haven't truly mastered something if you can't teach it in some capacity. Like, I know there are different personality types for sure, but I know anything that I've learned by teaching others, I understood it on multiple different levels. It actually made me better at
But
each task or skill.
you and I, my brother, are not the standard mold. So when I think about a master, let's go with a master auto tech, that whatever issue that's going on in somebody's car,
Mm-hmm.
they don't even gotta put it up on a lift. Like, they can just hear it when you drive up. They can hear it. They can smell certain shit. They see it. Before they even put it up on a lift, they got a pretty good idea of whatever problem that's going on in that vehicle. They are a master technician. those types of folks, they don't all have the communicative skills or patience or willingness to impart that on to everybody. Like, there are some folks that now, a part of my function as a business coach is to motivate and extract that value from the technician that doesn't have the innate skill or willingness, because everybody don't want the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are cool with just being, yo, it ain't nothing that you can put in front of me that I can't knock down. Some people are that's their spirit, but they don't have the talent, because it's a talent to be able to effectively teach, to move people, to change behaviors. That's a talent. Everybody don't have that. Leadership versus management, two different things. Everybody is not a leader. So there are some folks that whatever fucking problem that you put in front of them relative to their craft that they have mastered, they're going to get it done 10 out of 10. But to be able to teach and educate others is not their thing. And there are compensation ladders for all of that. There's incentives for all of that. But we can't force a square peg into a round hole. Some folks don't have it. So I deeply appreciate the point that you make, because I resonate with it directly. That's my lived experience. When it's certain thing, it really doesn't matter what it is. When you put it in front of me and I recognize that it ties to the advancement of my goals in life, I'm gonna fucking figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my spirit. And that's your spirit. Everybody ain't got that. And that's why there's a difference between the sensei versus the master.
You know, man, as I listened to you describe it, I was starting to think about different times where I've coached teams, and where the most talented guy on the team that I was coaching was not the captain. He just happened to be the most talented cat I had on the team. But I had someone else that actually had great leadership skills and great communication skills. That was the captain of the team, even though he didn't have a greater playing ability than the other player. So you're 100% right on that, if I'm looking at it through the lens of other people and not just through my lived experience. So I appreciate you for that, brother.
Yeah. No, and that's a part of why teams will either thrive or implode. When it's not clearly understood where the swim lanes are, like, there are so many fucking swim lanes that you best believe I'm finna shut the fuck up. when if the conversation is between Earl Harden and Jesse Bullock, I'm gonna shut the fuck up, because I don't know what the fuck you talking about. Like, I'm here to learn. Like, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of that. There's a whole lot of it. You know what I'm saying? And I have no problem with shutting the fuck up and taking it all in, because I know that I learned the way that I learn, but I also understand that I'm constantly learning. I don't know it all, and there's never going to be a time, and I don't even like using like guarantee words like never. You know what I'm saying? Like the forever words. The never is forever. I will never stop learning. I can confidently say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not going, yeah. And like, if you ever hear me say never in any other type of situation, I challenge you to challenge me on it. Like, because that's my mind ain't even wired that way. That's
Yeah,
the
it's all
only
about
thing. That's the only thing that's never going to change. Like, I'm never going to stop learning. And
it's all
the
about
second
progress,
the
bro.
second that I do stop learning, you can't challenge me on a notion because I won't be living anymore.
Nah, that's big, bro. You know, it's a whole quote for everything. You know, it's all about progression. Loiterers should be arrested. There is no stays the same. You know, there's like when I think about a plant is either growing and becoming ripe or it's getting rotten. There is no homeostatic plant. They're going one way or the other. And it's the same thing with people. You're either growing and you're coming into new revenants or you're rusting. There's no in between. So if you're not learning, you're losing.
Right. So with that skills flex piece, we had that was great dialogue, and thank you for inserting that challenge in there, Earl, because those are the types of conversations that need to be had for people to really conceptualize the distinction between, because you can be the master of what it is that you do and just be a terrible leader and be a terrible communicator and be a like terrible with emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't take anything away from the mastery of the craft that you have. Like, that's a is two different things. So like, that's the separation between the 5 and the 4, which then brings us to the 3. Now, the 3 is the person that, you know, 50-50. It's a crapshoot on if you got to go and double check they work. Like, they're good, but they're not at that space where, for that particular task that you have assigned them, when you send them off on the way, 100% of the time, you don't have to worry about it being done the right way. 80% of the time, you ain't got to worry about it being done the right way. Like, you got that offense. That's 4. A 3, yeah, I do got to double check on you every now and again to make sure that for that particular task, your brings us to the 2. The 2 is that person that is on the job training, and we are going through all of the processes to get you spun up on mastering that craft, that task, that demonstrating that competency. Whereas the 1 is, they have either not been exposed to it yet, to that task, that competency yet, or they are teetering the lines of unemployment. You know what I'm saying? Like, when it comes to any task that's to be performed within the business. So, like, you and I are at that Sensei stage history, but also being the greatest in the delivery of that. We are able to build teams that we can objectively look at where they are and say, when it comes to the company at large, you are a 2.5. Are you cool with, is that where you want to be at on a scale of 5?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're cool with a 2.5, that's one conversation. That's one conversation. If that 2.5 was a surprise to you and you feel a little bit offended, that's another conversation too. I need to know where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's not get caught up in our emotions. Because when it comes to this particular task, hey, bro, we had this job last week where X, Y, and Z happened, and I had to come back and double check on you, didn't I? And it's realistic feedback. It's constructive. It's productive. It's developmental feedback. It's instructive.
I feel like it's the only way you can build a company these days. You can't just scream and shout at people. That's not going to work. You have to put people in the driver's seat where they're taking some equity in their actions, and it will eventually lead to equity from the company. And that doesn't mean they're getting shares from the company, but they're getting bonused. And I just know every place I ever worked before I became a full-time entrepreneur, I treated that company like I owned it. And I wanted it to be the best company in the world. So my conversations, I would make sure they were along those lines of yours, where I'm talking to my supervisors, my management. I'm saying, hey, I want to be a 10 out of 10 here. Where am I not a 10 out of 10 in my occupation? Where can I get better? What do you think my greatest strength is? Why do you believe that? Okay. So we'd start building it, and they're like, this is crazy. This is like you're giving yourself your own disciplinary meeting. I was like, well, I want to be great. So if I did the things all the mediocre people would do, I'd be mediocre. So I'm going to ask different questions, and I'm going to put different pressure upon myself.
Earl, the part that gets missing in that is, and this is why for me, common sense is not a real thing. Like it's this fabricated concept that we conceptualized as being real. Like is not a real thing. You have lived experiences that have formed your decision-making process that governs your life and every decision that you make within your life.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody don't have those same lived experiences. So do we want to leave it up to the hopes and wishes of the individual to arrive at that same conclusion? Or do we want to structure a framework that they are either going to funnel in that direction or they're going to funnel out and they will self-eliminate? Like process does that. So everything that you described, like, again, that comes from who you are as a human being, as a man. You live your life through certain principles, and those same principles have made you who you are. They have made you the authority that you are.
I love the foreshadowing, brother.
Everybody ain't got that. So the way that we separate those who have it from those who don't is to be very clear on what that is to begin with. How do we define that? Like when we talk about the pronouns and all that, when I say I'm him, it ain't got nothing to do with none of that. It's because I know these things. Like I have a very high confidence level on advising and delivering on these things. How do I turn that into a team of folks that are able to deliver the same scale of value that I deliver as one individual? It comes from being able to objectively measure them on all of the points that make me me. And the same thing applies to you, Earl, and beyond.
I love that. And I feel like this is a perfect segue, into the topic. It's two topics I really want to talk about before we get to the next show that we're going to hop on. Bringing it back to the basics. When we're talking about wealth planning, financial planning, Who are you listening to? Because you have to begin with the end in mind. If you are listening to Dave Ramsey and you do not have millions of dollars in debt, he's going to give you the advice that's for someone that's millions and hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. What does that mean? He is not giving advice for someone who's making hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that means your opportunity cost is gigantic because you're not capitalizing on using those dollars to make more dollars. And I say that because it is so unfortunate when people think about building money and building wealth. We talked about this, I think, maybe on our third episode here. There are essentially three lanes of people, my guy, Jesse. We have debtors, we have savers, and we have wealth creators. That's it. Debtor is pretty self-explanatory. These are people who spend more money than they make. And unfortunately, is not tied to an amount of income. For people who make $400,000 and less, the ratios are the exact same. And then the amounts of savings are the same, which is always crazy to me. Someone who makes $73,000 a year, there's a high likelihood that they have the same amount in their savings account as someone who makes $400,000 a year. If that higher earner is not disciplined and they allow lifestyle creep to come in. Oh, I'm making more. Now I got to drive this car. Now I got to buy these shirts and these shoes. And I got to buy a new set of golf clubs. And they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And you guys go broke trying to impress other broke ass people. It's tragic. Because the wealthiest people I know, they do what they want to do. The reason that they acquired wealth was for optionality, not to be seen, not for popularity. They drive a F-150 that has a dent on the side of it. Their wife might have a Toyota. They might have one fun car that they take out on the weekend. But they live a pretty low-key life, and they have options to live a high-key life if they want to. But for the most part, having the assurance that if everything went to hell in the world, they'd have 10 years of money to live anywhere on the planet and 10 years to figure out what the next move is. So that takes us to the next step.
Hold on. So you said debtors, savers. What's the third?
Wealth creators.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So no one wants to be a debtor. If you're in a bunch of debt, people like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, they're really good at getting people out of debt. But more so if you're a lower income earner. If you're someone who's making a lot of money and you just made bad decisions in the past, how can we change your psychology so we can start using those dollars wiser? You know, I know you saw it. Ian Dunlap was talking about he paid off his debt first instead of investing more money. And it felt great to be debt free, but that ended up costing him about $380,000. And that $380,000 was back in the past. We're talking 10, 12, 13 years ago.
Bruh, I went through the same fucking thing, bro. So life is a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So going from being married in a house with 2 kids and a wife to being divorced and the state of Florida humbling my black ass in different kinds of ways than
It's
yeah.
wild, man, but it's fortunate that you went through that while you're young and not at 67.
Yeah, because it fundamentally shifted how I see how all this stuff kind of plays together. So it's like when we're looking at our lived experiences and how we apply that to the value that we are able to bring to the ecosystem large, because that's really what it was down to. When we think about just our ecosystem, the people that we can touch, the people that we can influence, our ecosystem, what value are we bringing? Are we bringing value, or are we not bringing value? Now, once we have established that we are actually bringing value, then it's understanding what that value means to the ecosystem, because everybody's value is different.
Mm-hmm.
The person or the function within the ecosystem that's responsible for making sure that all of the funds and finances are properly distributed amongst the entire ecosystem is a different value proposition than the person that's doing nails of the ladies in the community. Now, both of them are important, but they're not comparable. So by understanding the value of the skill set to the collaborative, the collective community, that piece is vitally important. And from there, when we understand the value within the ecosystem, we're articulating that.
Bro,
and
that's bro, because I was just saying that is the perfect way to put it. You know, as we're moving past being debtors, we're starting to be disciplined with our money. We have to avoid the pitfall of being a saver. We only save money to invest money. We don't save money just to save money. We save money to invest money because it's saying instead of spending that dollar today, I think I could turn that dollar to $2 tomorrow, or maybe $4, whatever the return is. The pitfall of being a saver, this happens to a lot of business owners. It happens to a lot of middle-class Americans and upper middle class, even upper class folks. So we're talking about folks that are making a couple $1,000,000 a year. They save for everything. They don't really use credit cards, which I think is silly. That's always use a credit card, never use your own money. And if you ever go through some fraud stuff, like some of us are going through right now, you know, if something happens on a credit card, it is a law. It is written constitutionally that the account has to be taken care of that day.
So how do we get to that wealth building piece? Because I cut you off on that, and I apologize. I went off on a whole fucking tangent. I'm sorry.
No, bro. You were cooking, and it connected with you. So we want to skip right by the saver, because the saver is essentially, the debtor and the saver have the same goal. So the debtor's goal is to get out of debt, which could be a net worth of zero if you have zero assets. And then the saver spends all of their worth to buy things, and they could have a net worth of zero also. So we want to be a wealth creator. A wealth creator says, I will pay interest to make more money. And there's a whole bunch of different ways you could do it. One of the easy ways I always talk to people about
interest being defined how?
Paying interest, so in a form of like non-recourse debt to make more money. So if we look at everybody's favorite scammer jammer, allegedly, Elon, one of the ways Elon continues to build wealth is by not paying taxes. How does he not pay taxes? Because he'll pay interest on a loan against his net worth that's in stocks, that's in preferred shares. And then he will use that, a little bit of that money for lifestyle, but he knows that he's forcing appreciation on all those stocks and shares and his company split. A way for people that don't have all of their wealth in their business is, when we're talking about life insurance, it's a couple different ways you could do it. So if you have an account, and you can do this in an investment or a brokerage account as well, you can get exposure to different things where we have a cash value life insurance policy, and we're able to sweep the policy's cash value, that's the amount of money you've paid into it, and what's accumulated so far. We're able to sweep that up against an index like the S&P 500. When we do that, you're able to get upside exposure of the stock market, but you don't see the downside. Where's the pay the extra interest? Well, if we just came from a negative year in the S&P 500, I would know that in the 80-ish year history of the S&P 500, right after a negative year, we see the wildest swing up ever. We see the highest historical gains. So knowing that we're coming from that position, I might call my broker, my financial fiduciary, and say, hey, I got a feeling the S&P 500 is going to go crazy next year. How can I get more exposure? Oh, pay 1% of your accumulated cash value, and we will give you 140% of the upside of your index. Now, caveat, if it didn't go, so if you pick something that is not as secure as the S&P 500, or let's say the S&P 500 doesn't follow what it's been doing and it stays down, you would lose that 1% of your account on that year. And then the likelihood of the next year being a wild swing up goes up even higher. So that is something that people do that are wealth creators. A wealth creator is most of the time asking this question. Instead of asking how much something costs, is asking how much can this make me? Because you're looking to compile different assets that you understand to work for you. And you are okay with leveraging something in a smart manner to get something else. So you're using assets to buy assets. That's what a wealth creator is doing.
Bro, what's so beautiful about what you just described there is when I describe the separation between the invoice that my client is paying each week versus what has happened over the course of that week, it's a price versus value conversation. And when you understand the separation between a cost or expense versus an investment, it kind of gives a different processing of cash going out, because you know what's going to come back. You know what I'm saying? So like because the beauty of doing this coaching thing is that the numbers are what govern how effective that I'm performing. And when I say the numbers, that's revenue generated, that's cost of goods sold, that's EBITDA. That's on the balance sheet side, making sure that the assets outweigh the liabilities in a significant manner, or there's a strategy behind the gap between the two. That's number shit. You know what I'm saying? So anywho, as we continue to bridge the gap between the idea of building wealth versus the actionable, practical steps that are actually being taken to achieve that wealth and build that wealth, curate that wealth, really understand the mechanics of that wealth, That's where the asset class steps in. And my screen just did some wild shit. I'm sorry. And that's where the asset class steps in. And we recognize that with all of the things that are going on in the world, you could be anywhere in the world, but you choosing to continue to be here with us and to be active participants, active classmates within this ecosystem that we passionately discuss each week. We thank you for it. It's been my man Earl.
My guy Jesse.
It's been the asset class. Thank you for listening.